Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our weekly call. We're on Wednesday this week, as opposed to Thursday the last few weeks. My name is Laura Vermilia. I'm the controller here at the OHSAA and the point person, the project manager for this transition to DragonFly. On the phone with us today is also Doug Ute, executive director, and various staff from the OHSAA, as well as Brandon Wallace from DragonFly and other DragonFly staff as well. So jumping right into it, today's meeting should be a little bit shorter than some of our others, unless depending on the number of questions we have. If you do have a question, please type that into the chat and we will get to that throughout the presentation or at the end. I'm just going to go over some reminders or things to know about this transition, where we are to date, the current timeline, progress on the data transition, training, and then just some reminders to officials, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So just some reminders or things to know. This call is being recorded, as was the last prior week's calls. All those calls can be found at the link here, and they're on YouTube. This link has also been published each week in the administrator updates that have been going out, and we will send another one this week with this link, or you can just take a quick picture of the slide on your phone. Also, a link to the FAQs. So all the questions that have been coming in, we've been answering and posting those and updating those at this link. It can also be found on OHSAA.org under school resources. There's a DragonFly FAQs about halfway down on the left-hand side of the page. Again, that was school resources on the OHSAA.org website. Right now, we don't have any future calls scheduled. Those probably will perhaps resume in August. So I ask that you continue to review OHSAA.org/meetings to register for training and to see the most recent training schedule. We are already, June's schedule is set, and we are scheduling into August. Now, these live trainings that we're scheduling currently are for school personnel, athletic directors, athletic assistants, school treasurers, and also our assigners. At this time, we don't have any live training yet scheduled for officials. And then periodically, please take a moment to look at the FAQ link. As mentioned above, we'll provide any updates there, such as any future calls or any critical information. And we would also publish that in a memo. Please remember to continue to use Arbiter for contests and assignments for anything happening between now and June 30th or now and July 1st. So any assignments and contests happening in the month of June, continue to use Arbiter. After the data has been loaded into DragonFly, which hopefully will be by end of day today or early tomorrow, and once you're trained, you can start using DragonFly for July 1st games and forward. Here's the information for DragonFly support. And then if you need to email me with any other questions or concerns. So in progress, where we are so far is we have handed off the data files, the final data files of OHSA schools and assignments. The games and assignments have been handed to DragonFly, and they are working right now as we speak to get those into their system. We've also provided all the officials' profile data, and renewals open tomorrow for officials for their permits and licensing, and that will still happen in my OHSAA just like it always has, and then that eligibility be transferred into DragonFly beginning June 5th. DragonFly is in the process of configuring and customizing their software for Ohio. So some terminology and process flows are still works in progress. So those will be explained as we go through training. If you're seeing a term that you're not familiar with, or a process flow is not exactly nailed down yet, it's because that work is still in progress. Assigners can begin renewing and applying online in the DragonFly system. So to become a certified assigner, that process is in DragonFly. Additionally, assigners have been working with DragonFly to set up their pools of schools and officials. There was a memo sent to all assigners on May 23rd last week, which provided a link to a Google form that DragonFly can then set up your assignment group. Schools can begin creating their logons. This is ADs, assistants, treasurers. Each person should have their own logon. There's not a reason to share logons or to have one school log on. Everyone should have their own logon. And you can also ask your game workers to create logons and set up bank information. If you're used to paying game workers through Arbiter, that can now be done in DragonFly. And then once again, once you're trained, you can begin using DragonFly for events happening July 1st and forward. Here's pictorially the timeline that we've been marching towards and working on. We're right here, May 31st. We're having this call, continuing to have defining requirements and working with DragonFly to configure the system for us here in Ohio. And DragonFly Academy Online is available and has been available to you at any time. There's also, you can also request Ohio specific webinars, instructions can be printed. All that's available on DragonFly Academy. The in-person training begins tomorrow. We have 4 training sessions happening tomorrow and 1 on Friday. We'll talk about that schedule here in a little bit. And then you can begin using DragonFly July 1, and we'll have more regional training in the beginning of August. This slide was from last week, just talks about how we're moving the game contests over. So we grabbed the file on May 29th and moved that over to DragonFly for every game and assignment from July 1st forward. So that is now being imported into DragonFly. Not every single element about the game will transfer over, such as transportation or no-show fees. Also, if a contest was not accepted by the visiting team, for example, that most likely will not transfer over. And then we ask that you pay close attention to any tournaments or invitationals you have set up that have multiple participants, and make sure that those came over correctly. And all this will be after tomorrow. There's nothing to do today. And then if you're missing any games or assignments, we'll work with you to identify those and get those into DragonFly for our member schools. Again, you can begin using DragonFly after you've been trained for July 1st forward. And then if you assign or enter contests for non-OHSAA member schools, you can begin entering those again after June 1st, after tomorrow, and once you've been trained. Continue to use Arbiter between now and June 30th. And then all games and assignments in Arbiter today are valid and binding, even if the transfer does not occur perfectly into DragonFly. And like I said, if some things are missing, we'll work with you to get those in there. Training. So tomorrow, like I mentioned, is our first live in-person training. These are 3-hour sessions geared to athletic directors, athletic administrative staff, and school treasurers, as well as there's training specific to assigners. Bring a laptop or tablet. You can see the training schedule and also register for the training at ohsaa.org/meetings. And then we'll also plan on recording one of our live trainings and posting that online. So if you aren't able to attend in person, you will be able to view a 3-hour session on your own, or go back and revisit parts that you maybe need extra help on. In July, we will work to train the trainers, so train some assigners and ADs who have come forward and said they would like to help their peers. We'll do that in July. And we'll also in July train our OHSAA tournament assigners, the assigners that work for us on our tournaments. We will host training for that and our district athletic boards. And then in August, we will have more live sessions, just like we're doing in June, that DragonFly will train. We're already scheduling those. You'll start to see those popping up on ohsaa.org/meetings. And then the trainers that we train in July, they'll also be available to work in small groups and have one-on-one sessions. As mentioned previously, available to you right now is DragonFly Academy. You can request a live webinar and hands-on help. Just go to dragonflymax.com/Ohio. And there's a lot of great information out there, so printable instructions as well as mini videos to help you get logged in, get bank information set up, those kinds of things. And officials, that's what you should be doing at this time. So I know this is a small slide, but here's just a sample of the training schedule. You can see that many dates in June are already booked. School personnel, most of those sessions are happening in mornings, 9 to noon. We do have one 8 to 11 and a noon to 3. And then for assigners, most of those are happening in the evening throughout the month of June. And like I said, we're continuing to schedule these into August now as well. If you are a school person and you absolutely cannot come during the day and need to go to an evening session that says assigners, that is perfectly okay. Similarly, if you're an assigner and you cannot make any of these evening sessions, but you see a session happening during the day in your location, you are more than welcome to sign up for the daytime session. The trainings are very similar. There just may be some different points of emphasis, and then the questions from the audience, from the participants, may be slightly different, but the training is essentially the bulk of it the same. So if you can't make an evening and you see a daytime, sign up for the daytime. If you can't make the daytime, but you see an evening, sign up for the evening. Officials, you'll be receiving a memo soon. As mentioned, the license renewal and registration for your permit will remain the same. It will be in my OHSAA beginning tomorrow. So you can sign up and renew your license. However, DragonFly, you'll also need to log in there to set up your bank account information and set up an account so that you can accept or decline assignments for July 1st forward games and also to be paid. Those trainings that are currently scheduled in June that were on the last slide are not really for officials. They will, quite frankly, be a waste of your time because it will be 3 hours focused on ADs, their departments, and assigners. A few frequently asked questions this week, a couple repeats from previous weeks, and then some new ones. And then we'll go into any chat questions that have come in. So if you're having issues logging into DragonFly, please email support@dragonflyathletics.com. Also, I'll reiterate a point from last week. If your login is pending for more than 2 business days, you've most likely selected to be a member of the OHSAA, and you need to go back in and select your school. My school's a non-OHSAA member school. Will my will my data transfer over? As mentioned previously, our priority is to transfer our member schools contests and assignments accurately and get them in there as soon as possible. So we cannot commit to transfer over games outside that scope. In addition, we don't have the non-member schools data. So it would require a totally different data transfer approach. So the best course of action at this time is to plan that these other games and assignments will not be imported in. You can download your games and assignments out of the current system and use that data to enter into DragonFly. Who should attend the live in-person training being held in June? Athletic directors, athletic assistants, school treasurers, or any other school personnel using the officiating software should all plan to attend one of the live in-person trainings in June or those being scheduled in August. Also, if you're an assigner, you should plan to attend. Like I said, those sessions are not geared to officials at this time. I'm an official. Do I use DragonFly to renew my permit? You do not. You go to my OHSAA to renew your permit just like you've always done.
Thanks, Lauren. So we do have a couple of questions that came in. They're actually both technical questions, so I'm actually going to have Brandon unmute, and I'll throw these questions his way real quick. And then folks are more welcome to put any additional questions in, and we'll try to answer those before we sign off. But Brandon, the first question that we had asks about who can enter contests. Will it be the home school that can enter the contest, or assigners that are entering contests? So what does that look like from the school side of things?
Yeah, so I'll give again the software answer, and then I'm going to allow OHSAA to amend anything that I say that doesn't match with your policies. So from the software perspective, anyone with permissions to enter that contest, which would include the athletic director and the assigner, would both have the ability to enter a contest. And we'll get into more of an elaborate answer and an explanation of it when we get into the trainings. But the way the schedule works with the unified schedule, either the home or the away athletic director or the assigner for that contest can enter any of the contests, and it will show up for everyone who has permission to view that. Now, again, I know that's starting to get a little nuanced for a short answer here when you're looking for something kind of straightforward, but it'll make more sense when we can put it on the screen in training. So the short answer from the software perspective is either AD on that contest or the assigner for that contest all has permission to enter the game, and then it will show up for all of the other participants of that contest. And if either AD enters it, then of course it shows up for the assigner to then assign officials against that contest. I will again lend it back to OHSAA to make sure that what I just answered from the software perspective matches any OHSAA policies.
Thanks, Brandon. That's correct. As Brandon mentioned, the software allows either AD or assigner to enter the game. The game does have to be accepted by both ADs. The assigner cannot accept the game on behalf of an AD. And then edits can be made by any of those folks with permissions.
Thank you both. Appreciate that. Brandon, one more question that I'm going to throw at you, I think, right now. I had a question about how the public, media, parents, so on and so forth, can see the schedules that have been put in for specific schools. So how can schools display those schedules either on their website, or is there an app that parents can download to take a look at? What does that look like on your side?
Yeah, so like most things, apologies, you'll get to know me through the trainings. I'm always going to give kind of a long-winded, nuanced answer to everything. But we do have a public website that comes with, again, it's part of the package that we're delivering through OHSAA to all member schools. So you can actually go to oh.dragonflyathletics.com. and search for your school in the search box there, and you'll see, once we get the schedules populated, your schedules, the scores of those, the records, the rosters, things like that will appear on that site. In addition to that, we also, through the OHSAA are integrated with Max Preps, who I know, does a very good job of displaying those schedules and scores and rosters and things of that nature. And then we have further kind of partner API integrations with folks like BNN, or we can share that partner API with any of your other current partners or vendors at the school side on top of what we've already agreed to do through the OHSAA. So we will provide you a site. We are also integrated with Max Preps. And then, of course, we can integrate with any of your other public website vendors that run those things for you via our partner API, and I can provide that to you during the training as well.
Great, thanks, Brandon. Appreciate that. Laura, I'm going to bounce back over to you. I think I have a few questions for you. And Brandon, you're more than welcome to jump in on these questions as well if you see fit. The first one asks just for a point of clarity. If games aren't accepted by both or all schools or multi-team events as of May 28th of this year, will those games not be transferred over into DragonFly? Is that correct?
So if it's two teams, so a home and away team, we're pretty confident those will transfer over, even if the other team has not accepted. Where we've seen in the testing, where it got a little, it didn't follow the same pattern, is on multiple participant events. So like an invitational, those were not consistently transferring over. In which case, that's again another reason we asked you to make copies, so that if those types of events are missing, we can get those keyed in.
Thanks, Laura. One other question for you, and then I think we will wrap up shortly. As an AD, will they have access to input their own administrative staff, or do they have to log in and create their own accounts? How does that work?
It is best if you have your administrative assistant or assistant AD create their own account and attach themselves to the school. That will give them the rights and abilities that you want them to have. We really don't want folks sharing logons. You really need to create your own. Brandon, anything to add there?
Yeah, I was just doubling down on what you said there, Laura. So we really, we can't stop you from sharing logins. We do really place emphasis on everyone having their own account, own login, just for what Laura said, for security. And then, just being able to set the permissions correctly. You as an AD may have different permissions. And especially when you get into the financial side of this, you can give permissions to specific individuals, which limits their ability to change game schedules and things like that, but does give them the access to your financial accounts and reporting that they might need on the back end. So just can't really emphasize what Laura said enough, that we encourage everyone to have their own username and password so the permissions can be set per username, per user role.
Perfect. Well, thank you both. So that will conclude our Q&A portion of the presentation. So Laura, I'll turn it back over to you to kind of wrap up and give a little bit more insight into the next couple of weeks.
Thanks, Ronald. Thanks everybody for your questions today. We've hit some major milestones. We have a few more to go, obviously. Training is a big focus right now, at least from the OHSAA perspective of getting you trained. If your school would like to host a training, please reach out to me at lvermillion@ohsaa.org. We will get that scheduled. Right now we are scheduling early August. So happy to work with you to get an event scheduled in your area. Please review all the options today that are available on ohsaa.org/meetings. There are I believe it's 30+ meetings already scheduled. Feel free to attend those. Again, continue to review that. If you would like to be trained as Train the Trainer and have not already emailed me, please shoot me a note. I have a long list of folks who have already volunteered, so thank you for that. And officials, sit tight. You will be getting more information here very soon. The message to you is starting tomorrow, you can renew your permit and go through that process. And we ask you to also set up a DragonFly account once you've renewed, so that you can set up your banking information and begin to accept and decline assignments. If we do have updates as far as another meeting scheduled, that will be announced in a memo coming out to all school administrators and assigners, or also on the FAQs link. We will post pertinent information. Thanks, everyone.